Good evening, America. This is Joe Pelayo from Joseph Michaels International with your lightning fast roundup of the day's biggest headlines. No fluff, just good stuff. Relief at last for the 43-day U.S. government shutdown, the longest in history, wrapped up last night when President Donald Trump signed a bipartisan bill funding operations through January 30th, 2026. Triggered by fights over border walls and healthcare. It sidelined 800,000 workers and shuttered parks and caused 11 billion in lost productivity. Agencies are reopening today, but full back pay could take weeks. Story 2 today, Epstein shadows lengthen. Yesterday, the House Democrats unleashed 23,000 pages of sealed files spotlighting President Trump's ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Emails claim Trump knew about the girls and spent hours at Epstein's Palm Beach pad with a underage victim in the early 2000s, clashing with his past 2004 story. And one chain had Epstein bragging he could take down Trump. Others tracked his flights, and the White House calls it a Democrat hoax to dodge the shutdown blame. And Trump said they're massive failures. No island links for Trump, no clearage for Bill Clinton, but elites are named, fueling calls for full disclosure next week. And the internet is exploding with theories. Accountability is overdue. And let me pause right there and just say, if you are inclined to believe they're really going to get him this time, don't think that. Usually I tell you, I try not to tell you what to think. You'll notice a lot of times I'll say, here's this, what do you think? But on this, no, there's been probably a dozen of these different stories that they're really going to get him this time. And I got to admit, some of the times I actually thought they were going to get him, but I think he's in the clear, and I wouldn't worry too much about your president. I think he's going to survive this story, just like he survived all the other stories. And just yesterday, there was a BBC retractment about January 6th, where they had actually doctored the video that he did, and actually fired a couple of their high level editors there. So yeah, no, you could think that this is terrible about the girl. You could think that this needs investigation. You could think a lot of things, but please don't think they're really going to get him this time, because no, I don't think he's doing these things. And if he would have been, what you would have to believe would be that they had these proofs during the Biden years, and Biden just hated Trump, right? So you'd have to believe that they had this, and then they either couldn't find it or they just now found it. No, they're not really going to get him this time. Story 3 today, telecom tremors. Verizon dropped a bombshell. 15,000 layoffs. That's 15% of its workforce in its biggest purge ever, kicking off starting next week, blaming the fierce rivalry from T-Mobile and AT&T, plus flat growth and price wars. They're chasing a $2-3 billion in savings for 5G bets. Cuts are going to hit offices and stores and tech teams. Town Hall delivered the bad news with up to 18 months of severance as a lifeline. It follows a botched price hike that spiked customer churn. Unions screamed corporate greed. Analysts nod to streamlining. Stock down 2%, but service stays steady. And X is getting in the game. They're making, you can make calls out of your X account now. Facebook has had calls available, and I would certainly look for LinkedIn to follow. As of this moment, you can't make a call on LinkedIn, but I think if you're on one of the social media sites and you can't make a phone call, I think you're going to be pretty limited. So yeah, LinkedIn, I would get that up and running. I think that they're all going to have some kind of a way to call people. Story 4 today, sky high spectacle. The G3 geomagnetic storm from the solar flares turned the northern lights into a nationwide light show last night, visible from Alabama beaches to California hills. With respect to forecast tonight, should repeat, and southward push, social feeds opening up with dropping pictures, apps crashed with the aurora chasers trying to find and experiencing outages actually because everybody's excited about their pictures. But scientists eye more flares, and so grab your phone, get out there, skip the internet, and get some real pictures, and get some of good nature's good light. Free laser light show calling tonight. All right, Elon Musk fires back in a viral video slamming Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. And so I'm going to try and play that video for you if we're successful here. So hang on a moment.
What happens when the most powerful Democrat in the Senate suddenly finds himself trapped in a political corner he built with his own hands? Chuck Schumer thought he had control the shutdown, the headlines, the narrative. But something shifted. Overnight, the plan backfired in a way that no strategist in Washington saw coming. The very move meant to weaken Trump has instead exposed the Democrats' biggest vulnerability, and it's spreading through their ranks faster than they can contain it. By the time you finish this video, you'll understand why Schumer's worst nightmare isn't about Trump, but about losing the one thing Washington fears most. You know, there's a funny thing about power in Washington. People think it comes from votes or titles or committee assignments. But really, power comes from something much simpler, the ability to control what people believe. And for decades, Chuck Schumer mastered that game. He knew how to craft a narrative, push it through friendly media outlets, and watch it become accepted truth by the next news cycle. It was almost clockwork. So when the government shutdown began, Schumer had every reason to feel confident. This was supposed to be his masterstroke. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Force Republicans into a corner, make them look like the obstruction, and watch public opinion turn against conservatives. Frame it as Republicans playing games while Americans suffered, paint Trump as the villain, control the story, and, honestly, it should have worked. That playbook had succeeded before, hadn't it? Think back to previous shutdowns. The party willing to hold firm usually pays the political price. Public frustration builds, moderates get nervous, someone blinks first, and in Washington, blinking first means losing. Schumer was counting on that pattern repeating itself. He figured Republicans would fracture under pressure. Some would defect, others would call for compromise. Trump would face criticism from his own party. The whole thing would collapse within days, maybe a week or two at most. But then something unexpected happened. Or rather, something expected didn't happen. Republicans didn't fracture. They didn't panic. They held the line. And more importantly, they started explaining why. See, here's where Schumer's calculation went wrong. He assumed people would automatically blame Republicans for the shutdown, because that's what usually happens. But this time, Republicans had a simple message that cut through all the noise. We're asking for a clean spending bill. 27 pages, no extra padding, no unrelated projects, just the essentials to keep government running. That's it. Meanwhile, Democrats were demanding trillions, yes, trillions in additional spending on programs that had nothing to do with keeping the lights on. Projects for various interest groups, funding for priorities that could easily wait, all attached to what should have been.
Okay. Now, that video I saw this morning, and what do you notice about it? Okay. And I don't know if that's a real video or not. The AI, and that was my last story point, is that the AI is becoming so real now that you can't tell the difference from the reality. And if you can, congratulations to you. I give you a couple of months or 6 at the most, and then you won't be able to. So imagine if someone put out a video like that with me speaking, which would be easily creatable with today's tools, and saying the same thing. And imagine that I'm a devout Democrat and a Chuck Schumer supporter, or the other way around, that they had it slanted the other way. And imagine someone did that on you, and they were giving an opposite opinion of what yours was. And I'm not saying what Elon's position is or that it isn't. I think it might be along the lines of what we just saw. But the AI, my point is that the AI is so real now, you can't tell it apart. So let me put a couple of things just on the table that I think might be good ideas. Number one would be if someone calls you, and this is not my original idea, I heard it from Scott Adams, and I'm sure others have floated it, but if someone calls you and they're a robot, how about a law that says they have to disclose that right at the beginning of the call? Because I don't know if you've had calls, I have, where somebody calls you and you think it's a robot, but you're not sure, so you're waiting, trying to be polite for your next chance to talk, but they keep talking, and then you realize it's a robot. Anyway, I think if it's a robot call, they should, by law, have to announce that. And I know a lot of people want the less laws, the better, and I get that. I'm mostly a believer in that, but I think that might be a good law. Think about it. Number two thing would be if it's an AI video, then it would have to say on it, AI generated video. I've seen some of those on some of the socials, so maybe it'll naturally occur, but maybe it'd be a good law just to say this is real and this is AI. What do you think? Anyway, I just thought I'd put that out for your consideration. And whatever you want is what's going to happen. That's the beauty of it. Scott Adams said, whatever the American people want, if they want 70% of them want it, it will occur. Now, it might take 10, 20 years for it to happen, but if all you want it, it'll happen. So I thought I'd put those ideas out there in light of today's ever-increasing power of artificial intelligence. Exciting times that we live in, friends. Well, that's it for the top 5 news, and now for an encouraging word. Sometimes the more they talk, the less truth the wise measure their words. The speech of a good person is worth waiting for. The blabbermouth, the wicked, their words are worthless. The talk of the great person, that's rich fare for many. But the chatterboxes die of an empty heart. I'm Joe Pelayo. Stay informed, stay up to date, keep safe, keep the pace, and I'll see you here tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Good evening, everyone.